Hello, cozy detectives, and welcome to the Blanket Fort Files. I'm Joy,
And I'm Larissa.
and we're here to report on all things comfy and cozy. Hello!
Yay. Welcome to the Blanket Fort.
I know, happy Blanket Fort Day. We also have a very fun, very meta theme today because it's also detective and I thought about texting you to see if we should wear like trench coats, and I was like, too far.
Yeah, if only I had one, that would have been cute. Or like one of those Sherlock Holmesy type hats or the tweed.
Yes. Yes, I am definitely talking about clothing as part of my case file today
Ooh, love.
because it is a large reason why it is cozy to me. But how has your week been? There was a holiday this week. So at time of filming this was July 4th. How was your July 4th?
It's pretty low key. I feel like it's kind of been hard celebrating, especially this year. But we just got together with some friends. We watched Legally Blonde.
Yes, you did text me that.
So
So
I
good.
think we're gonna have to do some sort of case file on that. I
Yes.
know. Did you see that
Yes.
they're doing kind of a prequel show coming out?
Yeah, isn't she a producer or director or something on it too?
I think so. Basically it's going to be Elle Woods in high school for those of our crazy detectives who haven't heard the announcement. And there's this whole movement to get Reese's daughter to play because they look so similar.
Cute. Oh
I
my
don't know
gosh,
if that will
cute.
actually happen, but I'm like, this is the time we want nepotism. Um,
Yeah.
but we were talking about it, and I don't know how it's going to work because
Mm.
the first movie is where we really see the growth of Elle, and she kind of evolves a lot in that movie. And so to do a
Yeah.
prequel, I'm not sure what the character growth would be without erasing where she starts the first movie.
Yeah, agreed.
And then also you can't do any sort of romantic plot unless, or either way they're going to break up because she is with Warner and then they break up too. Spoiler
Mhm.
for Legally Blonde, but it's
Yeah,
been
it's all
out for
good.
a very long
Yeah,
time.
we're at that 20-year mark or whatever. Yeah, I agree. I feel like I guess you could have them be an on again, off again in high school as well, and then that's like their big breakup
Hmm.
in the movie, but I agree. I don't know really how you have her have a character arc in a prequel other than she like has the character arc and then she reverts back because
Yeah.
something happens, but then it's kind of like, okay, well, what's the point of watching that if it doesn't progress? So yeah, that's a tricky one. I did have you Do you remember the I want to say it was a TV show slash reality show where they were trying to cast Elle Woods in the Broadway show?
Oh, I don't think I knew they did a reality show that kind of. Did you ever watch
Hmm.
Glee slash The Glee Project?
Yeah,
It
yeah, I
reminds
did.
me of that.
Yeah, it was really good, and I was all excited because I think it was the girl that I wanted, or this was years and years ago at this point. But I feel like I watched it, and the girl that I was hoping would be Elle ended up being Elle, or she
Cute.
got farther than I thought, or something like that. And I was very excited. So I feel like, yeah, it's kind of giving Mean Girl vibes of that character almost. You know what I mean? Like in the stereotype of like the like more ditzy, not as deep character. Because like you're saying, Elle Woods really has a really fun character arc in the movie. So, intrigue.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what they would do with that because I just feel for the most part with prequels, it only works if it's focusing on a different character, maybe a side character or someone who
Yeah.
doesn't really appear all that much. So, say, I just watched it last night, but Luke Wilson's character, maybe focusing on him, or Paulette's Jennifer Coolidge's character,
That's what I was
focusing
thinking.
on one of them. Because I feel like with
Mhm.
Jennifer Coolidge's character, she has the divorce and the
Yeah.
dog, and I feel like that could be an interesting look. But focusing on the main character, I don't know. We'll see
Yeah.
how they do. We'll see how
I
they
kind
do.
of now knowing that they're going to do potentially the prequel or they are doing the prequel, I kind of wish that Elle had known Jennifer Coolidge's character before because I feel like that's an easier fold in to doing the prequel kind of more about her character. But the fact that they don't know each other, I don't know how you weave that in either.
Hmm.
Hmm. But I feel like I feel like from what I've seen of the projects that Reese has done, they're pretty good. So I'm
That's
guessing
true.
that there's something there that they really feel like they can work with, I would hope.
Yeah, we'll see.
I don't know. Is there any date of that when they say that's going to come out, or
Not
it's
that
like
I
that
know of.
early?
Yeah, not
Yeah.
that I know of. I actually forgot that it had been announced until we were talking about it yesterday. So
Mm.
we'll see.
We'll see. We'll have to do some case file on that though, because that's such a fun movie. And just then there's a second one. There's not a third one, right? It's just two.
No, and then the musical. Did you ever see that?
No, I actually never saw the musical. I just watched that preview before. I knew some of the songs because the girls were having to learn that for Elle,
Oh,
but
okay.
I don't know the plot of that. I think it's just the same
Yeah.
thing as the first movie, I
Yeah,
think.
just with songs, which is
Yeah.
it's kind of funny we're talking about this now because our episode that came out yesterday
Yeah.
was our musicals episode.
Yeah. I love that. That was so fun. I love diving into all the behind the scenes of that. And then also this week, to get into a little bit of this week, we are discussing two different detective style things. So I have a TV series, I guess, quote unquote, and Larissa has a game vibes that we're going to be discussing. So for the first of our case files this week is mine, and it is The Adventures of Mary Kate and Ashley, a musical mystery series. I didn't
Ooh.
know they were musicals. Like it says it on the VHS, a musical mystery series. And I'm like, I feel like I should have known that because they sang so much, but I didn't know it was considered that.
Yeah, I don't think I did either because I know there's songs and
Yeah.
we'll get into some of my favorite ones. But
Ooh.
yeah, I don't think I knew that it was called a musical series either. I also don't think I realized that it was a TV show. I thought it was just like mini movies that they released.
Yes. They
That's
call them
interesting.
episodes, and looking it up, it's called episodes, and they're only about 30 minutes long, and
Oh,
so right? There's so much that I discovered through looking this up, including the fact that it now as an adult looking back feels very cringy, and there's some, like,
mm,
awkwardness that I
oh
didn't know was
no.
there when you're younger, and you're just like, "Yeah, I could totally get a cab myself," and then now you're like, "Why is that 8-year-old getting a cab? That seems a little weird."
You're supposed to like not expand, but dispel reality for a
Yes,
bit.
exactly. So to kind of walk my way back into this case file, I'm going to start with how it's cozy to me and then get to discussing the specifics of it because I think the reason that this is the case file that I chose for this week is because it felt so cozy to me. And, and then in doing the actual research, I'm like, oh, it's partially cozy and partially just like there's like a lot more cringe than I
Oh
realized, which I know I've said,
no.
but I don't think actually it can be overstated in this. So the fact that it still feels cozy, I think, is like depicting how much Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen really were a lot of our childhood. If you're like in your 30s ish time period now, because the time period that this series, which they've done a few of them when they were younger, so the girls were about 8 or 7 in filming this,
Mhm.
and it was the years of 1994 to 1997, and there were 11 episodes.
There's
So
only 11?
I know,
I
but
guess I think
that's in the
that's why.
mysteries.
Okay, yeah, and I think
Mhm.
that's probably why I thought it was just little movies, not the series. Okay, this is
Yeah.
making more sense now.
Right? Also, the shook of all shook, the thing that I remember most of the girls is one, I remember winning London, and we've discussed that like in small bits, but that is definitely one of the reasons where I first was like, okay, I love London and I want to go and travel there and
Same.
do all of the things. But then two, So Little Time, their TV show was only one season.
Yeah, I think I kind of remember that. It's one of those things where because the Olsen twin, like Empire,
Phenomenon of
yeah,
everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, just was in so much.
Mhm.
So while some of their projects were shorter run because they were in our lives basically from, before we were even born on Full House
Mhm.
to all, their shows, their fashion. So I think just their presence, at least and for the two of us, our lives just were so involved that even if their projects were, I guess, in the long scheme, a smaller scale, it still felt really
Mhm.
big because they were just always part of our lives growing up.
Exactly. And I think that for me is a large reason why it's cozy because they were with us for so many years as we were growing up. And even looking back, there is something I feel like I see more on like Instagram, TikTok now about like how childhood in a lot of ways is so much faster than it was when we were kids. And I think that is very indicative also of this series because it is slow, slow, slow. The girls, so basically the plot of each episode is at the beginning, they start with a song and they sing what's going to happen. And there's like the very famous song, which I don't think we can sing, but if you know, you know.
Yeah.
And they're wearing their little trench coats and their little hats, and they then get a case file. And they, if it's like even overseas, they bike to it, which I thought was hilarious. It's like they
Maybe
bike by map.
maybe that's what we need to start doing because again, we're getting very meta today. Case files about case files,
I
but
know.
we should have a little
A little
graphic
dot us.
across the screen of us on our little bikes.
Yes, once we get to that level, that would be the best because I feel like in both of our case files, it's just really fun of like the travel by map and like they get really into
Yeah.
the case file aspect of it. And then they also have Clue the dog, which is a girl, which we learn about. I don't remember which episode we learned about that in, but Clue the dog, who's kind of like their sidekick, who sometimes will come along with them, sometimes won't, which is hilarious because again, if you're biking, where's Clue at? How did Clue get there?
She's in this little
the
her little basket.
Yeah, just a little basket in the front. Um, but in the 11 episodes, it's about 30 minutes an episode. And then it's funny because looking ahead at like the Winning London or the like Holiday in the Sun and things like that, the first good chunk of those is basically referencing back and being like, if you like the Olsen twins, you should watch all these other things and get these clothes and play their GameCube game
Yeah.
and get their Barbies. So I think for me, a large aspect of the nostalgia for them is also the Walmart clothing line, which is very
Mhm.
specific. But I have very vivid memories of walking into Walmart directly to the girls section to look at the Olsen twins clothing line. And I almost am positive that they also had like nail polish and like beauty products
Yeah, I
as
think
well.
body glitter, that whole
Yes. And I was
vibe.
in a body glitter phase, as we know.
Who wasn't?
Loved, loved, would roll that everywhere. I also think that because they traveled with us in the late 90s to early 2000s, one, the style of it feels very nostalgic because there's a few photographs and looking up their style of like, if you put that on an adult, Lorelai Gilmore would totally wear that. So
Yes.
it's like it's similar style and similar vibes and a similar time period in life, which was a formative time period for me, I guess, because I just kind of like locked in all those memories in the same
Yeah.
bubble of things. But that is a lot of the reason why that this is nostalgic to me. They also, in looking at, I kind of found clips of the videos because a lot of it was hard VHS and is nearly on no streaming services, so it was
Yeah.
hard to watch a full episode of it. But the adults, it the only thing I can think of, and I'm not even sure if this is accurate, is like the Wiggles, where like they're like doing like the over like exaggerated faces for like kids or something like that, because they're real hard overacting in the
Oh,
adults of
no.
things.
Yeah.
There's a lot of songs throughout. The adults kind of are there to sometimes move the plot along and sometimes just like accompany the girls. Sometimes in a few episodes, like the US Department of whatever calls the girls and are like, we've got a case for you. Their little slogan is, we'll have it anytime by dinner time or something
Dinner
like that.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, they solve it all by dinner time, which is cute because they're like, we
Yeah.
gotta be home, have our dinner. Must be solved by
Bedtime.
then. Yeah. The first episode is in 1994, which is the case of Thorn Mansion. The girls bike, obviously by map, across to Transylvania to figure out if there's a ghost haunting a mansion. And spoilers, it turns out to be a beekeeper.
This one, I didn't realize that was the first one. This is the one that
Mm-hmm.
I only had one on VHS. So I've seen other
Mm.
ones, but this is the one I watched a lot. So I don't think I realized that was the first one.
Yeah, the first one, 1994, and the last one, 1997. This one was kind of funny because it takes them a hot second, and I think it's really cute, like the kid aspect of it. So like they'll sing through a song, I believe it's in this one, about like being brave. And one of the phrases that they say is they're talking about like, I've used like adult shampoo, or I've like done all these cute little things. And one of them is like, I've taken a photo on Santa's lap, and I'm like, exactly. We've
right?
talked about this. That's creepy. Like,
Yes.
it's scary for a child. Santa is weird. It reminds me of like the elf where it's like, "You're not the real Santa." I'm like, yes, exactly. They're all posers.
Yeah.
Um, but then the last episode is 1997, and that's the case of the US Navy Adventure. There is a quote unquote UFO flying through the sky that the girls have to figure out. It turns out it's actually just a satellite flying low.
Which I feel like also that was kind of the times because
Hmm.
obviously satellites had been around for decades, but especially
Yeah.
they just became more prevalent around that time, especially with satellite TV and attaching devices to your house. So that feels right for the time.
Yes. The girls were very iconic 90s clothing. It is filmed very 90s. It is 20 to 30-minute, depending on how many like kind of before commercials there were, but it's only a 30-minute episode. A few of the other episodes are the case of the SeaWorld adventure, which is one of the ones that I remember very well. It's funny because the girls' parents basically have discovered a way to talk to dolphins, but then the girls, it's kind of a wild episode because the girls are like out walking and they think they see like a dead guy, and then they're like trying to solve what's going on. It's kind of a like I can't think of what the movie's called, but something at Bernie's, where like it
Oh,
looks like
Weekend at Bernie's.
Weekend at Bernie's. It looks
Hmm.
like there's this lady like kind of like bringing this guy around, and then the girls get a cab and they're like tracking down what's going on. And it's really funny because at the beginning of the episode, the like SeaWorld manager or whoever he is like, "Girls, you have to stop doing this because you're not real detectives." But then it turns out at the end, he set them up because he's like the like mastermind behind this plot, and it's actually two mimes from SeaWorld pretending to like be these characters so that the girls and their parents can go on a cruise sponsored by
Oh,
SeaWorld. So it's
all
like,
right.
okay, it's
Interesting.
interesting plot, dude. So okay. But it just, I think the like they sing at one point in penguin costumes, and I have a very vivid memory of that. They're
I
like
don't think I've
singing
seen
to the
this
audience.
one.
Oh, really? Yeah, it was one of those where, again, looking back as an adult, I was like, oh, this is like very odd.
Yeah.
But looking at it as a kid, you're like, oh, I could totally solve that. And like I could take cabs by myself and track down what's going on here. And what if I got swept up in a case and then I had to sing in front of SeaWorld to like help solve it?
You would
So
you would get it done.
exactly, exactly. I'd be in it. So the few of the other ones are the case of the Christmas caper and then the case
I
of
remember that
volcano
one.
mystery. Those were the ones that I specifically kind of remembered throughout. And this was kind of a sub genre of the girls because they had the like adventures of them in that VHS very iconic case with like the keyhole at the front and the
Hmm.
girls in their little outfits in it. But I feel like out of all of them, the one that I mainly remembered is the case of the SeaWorld adventure. And then learning that the first one was the case of the Thorn Mansion. And then the last one was that Navy one was so, I don't know. It's like once you start looking at it, I was like, oh, I remember this. I remember this plot. I remember what's going down here. I remember like how this turns out. But definitely kid focused. I would
Hmm.
not say this is a hard rewatch as an adult. Like I mean, going back to Legally Blonde, I feel like even though we were not this young and watching it, I feel like that holds up and is an easy rewatch. Where this, I don't know if I would super rewatch it. From what I
Hmm.
remember, Winning London is still good because I have that DVD and I have watched it. But I don't know if I'd go with the VHSs for this. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way because I feel like there's children's media that works kind of for all ages, or
Mm-hmm.
at the very least, I can connect with it now because the
Yeah.
nostalgia is so high. And not to say that I'm not very nostalgic for this because I am as
Yeah.
well. We picked this one basically because I really wanted to do my case file. Y'all really wanted me to do my case file, and so we had to pick something for the theme. And I think this is something we both enjoyed as kids, but it's not something I've revisited as an adult either, with the exception of a couple songs from that first
Mm-hmm.
one, particularly. I think we talked about this before you started doing your research, but I don't know if it came up on YouTube. But there is a scene in that first one with Elizabeth Olsen, who
Yes.
everyone probably is familiar with now, but she
Mm-hmm.
was very, very teeny tiny then. And she wants to come along and solve the case with them, and they don't want her to.
BUTT out.
Yes. And they sing an entire song called BTT Out. And as an older sister, I very much vibed with it.
Cute.
But, but yeah, I can see definitely the cringe factor because I feel like they also kind of, with the camera work, do these interesting angles, at least during that
Yeah.
song, and really weird font choices. Um, and I distinctly remember this one line because my sister and I will quote it to each other occasionally, mostly in jest, but it's like, be a sweetie and BUTT out.
Nice. Nice.
So yeah, definitely cringe. And then there's also a song that I think, obviously the kids themselves didn't write this, but I think giving it to kids was kind of smart. But they basically sing about different studies like oceanography, taxonomy, but
Mhm.
they sing it as words. You'll have to look it up on YouTube, or we can link it in the description because it is kind of a fun vibe of the song, I will admit.
Yeah. Like, a lot of the songs are very catchy, for sure. And then there's the one about, like, what's in your brother's dresser drawers.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
that one is a good one as well. It's I think the biggest thing about it, and also, sorry, I'm going, like, back and forth in my brain about things, but their younger sister was in quite a few of them, but she was
Hmm.
always just like like in one of them they like wrap her in Christmas lights and then they're like bye.
Oh
They
yeah,
like
I
that's her
remember
only
that.
time in it. So it's cute because she's also in a few of their movies. Like she's in a cab in one of the movies and they're just like talking to her for a split second. And it's so interesting to see her be shorter than them because obviously like the height difference now feels so drastic. One of the fun facts that I learned also is that they are not identical twins.
Yes.
That's crazy. I did
I
not know
know.
that. They
Yeah,
look so close.
I saw that, I think somewhere recently people were talking about it, because they obviously look similar. I
Mhm.
think now you can
Yeah.
tell them quite clearly apart, but obviously they played one character on Full House, so
Yeah.
they had to look similar enough that we wouldn't know who was who when they were Michelle.
Mhm.
But one thing I was going to ask you, because I don't remember this and I don't know if it came across in your research, did they have character names or were they Mary Kate and Ashley in these
I believe they're
episodes?
Mary-Kate and Ashley, and so
Hmm.
I think, again, they're themselves kind of, but like an alternate version of, like, these mystery case solvers.
Yeah. I always thought it was interesting when, just in general, obviously with them and when they would go by Mary Kate and Ashley in something, but then also go as a character name. But in other scenarios, like that's a Raven. Her character's name is
Yeah. I
Raven. Hannah
think that was
Montana.
pretty common.
Yeah, her character's name is Miley. I just kind of want to know the choice or the reasoning
Yeah.
why that happens sometimes, what the logic was, what the decision, the
Mhm.
rationale. So if anyone happens to know, let us know.
Yes, because in Winning London, they are character names. They're Chloe Lawrence and Riley Lawrence.
Hmm.
So I wonder why, and sometimes they were and sometimes they weren't, like you said. And I think even thinking of them younger, I do picture them a lot as the Winning London. Like the photo of them in the trench coats and the bucket hats and like the crazy
The
pants,
flippy
the
hair.
flippy hair, like the short flippy hair. I think that's the image that I have of them when thinking about them. That or like their longer kind of wavy hair that they had in So Little Time is the two iconic images that I have of them and things. But yes, another fun fact is that in Full House, they had her character be ambidextrous because I don't remember which one, but either Mary Kate or Ashley, one of them is right-handed, one of them's left-handed. And so they had to have,
Mm.
just in case, like, because they had her do so many, or had them, now I'm saying her as if they're one
Yeah,
person, had them do so many different things on screen that just in case they had one of the twins or the other, they had to have the character be ambidextrous. So whatever she grabbed for was like, oh, I guess that's just her in that moment. Not like, but like as a fun fact, you can look back and be like, okay, that's Mary Kate, or okay, that's Ashley.
that's interesting. I never knew that. I know there's an episode, I think Michelle like falls off a horse or something and they both appear on screen
Oh,
at one
really?
point. I,
Oh, I
I
miss it.
I can't remember the episode, but I think it's something where she falls and hits her head, and so they actually both appear because Michelle is seeing
Oh, like
double
she's
or
seeing double or something? Aw,
mhm.
cute. Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Yes, so that is my case file. I think it was fun to walk down memory lane, and it was fun to think back on little Joy looking at these, because I think,
Mhm.
again, that was something where you think that you can do this, or like, I could solve this mystery, or I could be like the girls and like wear their Walmart clothes or something like that. They had Barbies at one point, which I never got. Um, but I think it was more a fun memory lane walk than like I would want to go back and rewatch these specific episodes of things. Maybe for kids, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Some of them were interesting episodes. So
No, that
tell us
makes
about
sense.
your case file.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
so
so excited.
excited. So this it has been a long time coming. I talked about this in our very first episode. My case file this week are the Nancy Drew computer games.
Yay. I'm so excited because I actually never played these,
Oh,
really, minus
really?
like a couple times at school. So I'm
Okay.
excited to learn the behind the scenes and your connection with them too.
Yes. So these are a series of computer game and they are created by a company called Her Interactive. And that is essentially what this game company made. They did a
Oh.
few different offshoots, but I feel like in comparison to a lot of other video game developers, they branched out a lot and they really just focused in on Nancy Drew.
Mm.
So there are 34 in total. Most recently, I mentioned this a few episodes ago, but The Mystery of the Seven Keys came out in May of this year, which I have not played yet. It's one of the few I haven't played. But
Ooh.
the first one came out in 1998, so they have been going on for quite a while. And each game is inspired by one or more of the Nancy Drew novels, which I'm assuming you're probably familiar with. If you've never read, you at least know of them.
Mhm.
And side note, if you didn't know this, Joy, or if any of our cozy detectives didn't know, the Nancy Drew book series is actually ghost written, which is basically it's listed under one author. And so this author of the series is Carolyn Keene. But for the Nancy Drew series specifically, it's actually written by a bunch of different authors.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I said
So
like a
just
mystery
as
within
a
a mystery.
exactly. So I'm going to kind of talk about just the games overall and kind of their, I guess, the similarities between them and kind of overall because they're very similar in the overall core structure, the skeleton of it, if you will, and then branch out to a couple of specific games. So in each game, you play as Nancy and you never see her, except occasionally you might see her hands or her feet. But for the most part, you are truly her. You move as her, you see as her. So it's not a situation where, as with Animal Crossing, which I talked about a few episodes ago, where you see your little avatar on the screen, the game
Like
view
first
is,
person.
yes, exactly. So you try to solve a different mystery with the game. So there will be one overarching mystery, and you interview different suspects. They're essentially NPCs. Most games have about four in them, so you can go up and talk to them. I would say, especially for the time period when the majority of these games came out, the graphics were actually pretty good and pretty lifelike and realistic.
Cool.
So that was always kind of fun. And then a big part of the games are completing tasks and solving puzzles, which I first started playing these as a kid. I probably was about 9 or 10. So they're intended for kids, but they're hard. I've gone back and played a lot of them as an adult, and I even struggle with them. So
Oh, wow.
yes, which I discovered. So, if any of our cozy detectives have played them and struggled or decide to try them out, the Her Interactive company has a website and there is a message board for players
Whoa.
to come on. They will offer hints. You can get spoilers if you're really, really stuck, or they can just
Mm.
guide you and say, hey, you might want to try this, or kind of,
Oh, interesting.
yeah.
So
So
in order to progress the game, you have to like you can't like zoom back out and zoom into another area of the game. Like you kind of like end up soft locking yourself if you can't solve whatever
no,
or
no, which is for the most part, it's not a hard, it may be a little soft lock, but not a hard lock, which
gotcha.
I'll get into a little bit more when I talk about why I find it cozy. But
Mm.
it is really good. So if there is a puzzle you're struggling with, you can go and work on something else and come back to it
Oh, nice.
most of the time. So, but in order to finish a game and really progress the storyline, you do have to solve it. So if you are struggling, there's websites to help you. You can find full walkthroughs with exact answers, but I feel for the most part, you want to figure it out on your own.
Yeah.
So it's nice to go on the message boards and have people just kind of guide you through it.
Mhm.
So the mysteries can really range in topic. So sometimes someone has gone missing, sometimes they're just kind of oddities, or someone is acting weird. And so you're trying to figure out
Cool.
what's going on. Very, very rarely is it something where someone has died. It's usually not
Mm.
a murder mystery, which I kind of appreciate. For the most part, they take place in the time in which the game was released. Like you're not going back and forth in time. Um, but there's one, I think it's called Secret of the something with a clock in it. Cozy Detectives help me out. I didn't write this one down, but that was the first Nancy Drew books. You actually go back in time in
Oh,
that
that's very
game.
cool.
But it's kind of interesting to see how the games kept up with technology. And I'm not necessarily talking about the graphics, but so part of the gameplay is Nancy can call people she knows for help. So she has friends Bess
Cool.
and George. She has her boyfriend Ned Nickerson, which we don't like him in the games.
Oh,
He's
I was like, there's something she's about to tell me. I saw it in your face.
yes, I don't. He's just like a little he
He's just that guy.
every yes, and I just wish Nancy would break up with him because
Nancy deserves
especially
better.
exactly. I was playing one a few months ago, something seven something ships. They're all of the names are hard to remember because it's always like a secret of or curse of. But anyways,
Yeah. This was all of mine were like the case of, and I was like, okay.
right. So he, every time you would call him, he would be all butthurt that she was off solving a mystery. And
Ugh,
that happens a lot in the games. Like he has real bad jealousy problems. So I'm like,
yeah.
girl, Nancy, dump him.
We don't need that in a man, you know?
Exactly. So each game is also set in a different location. So that was always kind of fun too, where you get
That is
to
cool.
travel around the world. So we went to Paris in Danger by Design, and that is where you are working as an assistant to a French fashion designer.
Cool.
And we've been to Japan and Shadow at the Water's Edge, where a hotel is being haunted by the ghost of a woman who drowned in the water. So that one does
Mm,
deal with a death. And that one I think is the scariest of the games. It's really, really creepy.
I could see that for sure.
But it's always kind of funny too. So sometimes Nancy will get a call or a letter to fly out for the mystery, but then sometimes she is trying to go on vacation and just relax and take a break from mysteries, and then something
Mm,
happens at the beginning of the game and she gets pulled in to be a detective.
that's cool.
So it's always like Nancy just can't relax, she's always got to work.
Yeah.
But oh, what I was going to say with the technology, so she can call, and so in the very early games you would have to go back to say her hotel room and use a rotary phone
Oh,
or
cute.
a landline phone,
Mhm.
and then eventually she gets a cell phone, and
Oh.
then eventually she gets a smartphone. So
Whoa.
she
That's so
does kind of
funny.
upgrade her technology as the games come out.
Nice.
So, yeah, so you can call for help. In every game, she has some form of notes. So when you move forward in the story, whether it's talking to the suspects or you find something, Nancy will keep track of that. And again, that changes. So she used to carry around a notebook, and then eventually she keeps track of that on her phone. And then you'll have a task list of you have to explore this or you have to solve this puzzle. So you can kind of keep track of what's going on. And then when you call the other people, you can ask them for hints as well. So
Oh, that's cool.
so that's kind of a good starting place before you move to the message boards. However, when you're playing, you can choose to be a junior detective or a senior detective. The gameplay and the storyline is pretty similar. Sometimes the puzzles are a little harder for senior detective, and you can't ask for hints as a senior detective.
Oh.
I've never played a game as a senior detective. I need my
That's
hints.
yeah, I was gonna say that seems like yeah, because I was wondering, do you still call people, but they're just like, "How's your day going?" Because if you
Basically,
can't ask
yeah.
them hints, they're just yeah, ooh, tricky. Okay, that's
Yeah,
kind of
it's
cool.
just
I didn't know
Ned
that.
complaining the whole time.
Yeah, come on, Ned.
And then you can also, in some of the games, talk to the Hardy Boys if you're familiar
Cute.
with their series. So they're friends, Frank and Joe, and you actually get to play as Frank and Joe in some of the games. So you switch between Nancy and the boys, which is kind of cool.
Oh, that's cool.
And then one feature in all of the games, this is the high stress situation.
Oh.
Sometimes you can make a fatal mistake, which
Oh.
will result in Nancy either getting severely injured or dying.
Oh. I did
But
not know
you
that.
don't have a set number of lives. So what'll happen
Mm.
is usually there will be like a newspaper with a headline of amateur detective dies in the water, or it'll just be, a phone call
Oh,
happening and there'll be a button. You made a fatal mistake. Second chance. You just click the second chance and it rewinds and you can try again. So while it is a little high stress, it's really not because you have
yeah.
unlimited chances. There's not a lie like I have 3 lives
And the
left.
game's over or whatever.
And I'll talk about my favorite game in a little bit, but in that one where the fatal mistake can happen, Nancy gets locked into this tomb with a mummy. And so it's dark, all you have is a little light stick to try to figure out the puzzle to get out. And so when you turn on this one camera angle, you see the mummy's face, and it's so creepy.
Oh, I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna look it up while you do
Um,
that.
yeah,
What's
that one's called Secret of the Scarlet Hand.
okay,
Just
perfect. Keep
yeah,
going. I'm gonna look it up. The scar.
we'll have a
Oh,
jump scare of it on screen.
yeah, right. We'll warn you. Don't worry.
I promise these games can be cozy for the most part, but they are a little creepy in a
No, but
few.
it's kind of like Clue, real life. You're walking through. Like, I think a lot of the things also in our childhood were very like detective-y for some reason, like
Yes.
futuristic-y and detective-y and like travel-y, which is something that I've noticed in both of our case files where like I think they're going on all these different adventures that makes you want to go on adventures. And you're like, I
Yeah,
could also do that. So
exactly. You have to let me know if you find it.
I see the mummy I'm looking at just looks pensive. So I'm wondering.
Okay, I'm gonna look for it now.
Yeah, do it.
Let's see. I put my
It's I
okay.
like the graphics too. It's very I think she's with the brothers here too.
So I just
Yeah.
showed Joy the mummy, and
Yes.
when you're all you can see is the little glow stick outline. It is kind of creepy.
Ooh. Is that like
Um,
your fatal mistake if you like look at it or
no, because basically you run out of air.
oof. I would
Yes.
have loved
So
this as a kid. I'm surprised I didn't play this as a kid.
well, I was going to be kind of towards the end, but I will share this now. Most of these games you can download from
Cute.
Her Interactive website. They also have a few on Amazon.
Mm.
Since most computers don't have CD players anymore,
Yeah.
most will do a digital download. So if anyone out there listening wants to play, highly recommend.
Yes. And let us
Um,
know what your favorite of the games
for
was.
sure. for
Mhm.
sure. So, just a couple of other points, and then I'll talk more specifically about my favorite. Oh, one of the other fatal mistakes in a different game, Danger on Deception Island, you have to make Nancy a sandwich, and there's a bunch of different ingredients in the fridge. You can accidentally give her food poisoning.
Oh no, which is
So,
the worst. Food
right.
poisoning is the worst.
Speaking of which, side tangent, did you hear about that Delta flight recently? Did you see that?
Yeah, I did.
I'm like, I'm
Ugh.
never flying again. There's been so many plane crashes or accidents that
I
it's making
just
me a little nervy.
yeah, I do not want any of the chicken. Like I will take whatever with me, little bars or something. So, oh, yes.
Yeah. But Nancy is played by Lanai Minella in almost all of the games.
Mm.
They did get a new voice actress recently, so that was kind of a little controversial in the fan
Scandalous.
group just because
Mm.
it's someone we grew up with
Yeah.
for all of them. And if any of our cozy detectives are fans of the Nancy Drew games, they will know this. So a lot of the times Nancy will try to open something, a door, a cabinet, and it'll be locked, and she'll comment on it because you can't open it, and she always goes, "It's locked."
That's so funny.
So, and then you'll click on it a bunch of times just to see if it'll work, and she'll just be like, "It's locked. It's locked. It's locked." So it's kind of well known in the Nancy Drew games
That's
fandom of
funny.
"It's locked." Um, but so they had a bunch of games, about two or three every year, at least one every year for a while. And
Wow.
then they stopped in like 2015. And then it wasn't again until 2019 where they had another one come out. And
Wow.
that one, unfortunately, it was Midnight in Salem. That one, unfortunately, a lot of fans did not like.
Oh no.
Unfortunately, I know for a lot of people, I was able to finish it, but a lot of people's games had some sort of bug or glitch and they weren't able to finish it.
Oh.
And for having to wait 4 years for it,
Yeah.
everyone was like, okay, this is going to be amazing, great graphics. So it kind of fell a little short. And
Mm.
then I've kind of heard mixed reviews of the newest one, apparently. So sometimes you'll have to do these little where Nancy will have to do a little job in the middle of it because you have
Mm.
to earn money to buy things.
Oh.
So in this one, you have to make lattes and do the latte art. And I guess you have to get it perfectly aligned with your mouse. And I guess it's really hard. I saw a TikTok of this guy just struggling with it.
Oh. I struggle with latte art
Um,
in general. So
no,
like
same.
yeah.
And I think because normally the games are very much point click, but this one is a little bit more.
Like
I don't know the
movement.
yeah, I don't know the technical term for it,
Mhm.
but it's not just a point and click. So you can pick up items and keep them in your inventory. You can look at other things for clues and hints, like documents or posters. And the mouse cursor is always a magnifying glass and it'll turn red when you can click on it. So that's kind of all of the games in general.
Mm.
My favorites, I have a few. I really enjoy Haunted Carousel. So it's this like abandoned theme park essentially.
Ooh.
Curse of the Blackmore Manor, Last Train to Blue Moon Canyon, which is one of the ones where you can play as the Hardy Boys. And then I just have a very special place in my heart for Secret of the Scarlet Hand because that was the very first one I ever played.
Aw, cute.
And that one came out in 2002.
Mm.
And in that one, I'll talk a little bit more about the story in that one. So Nancy gets an internship at Beach Hill Museum, which is in DC.
Mm.
And so that is one where she's not going with a mystery ahead of time. The mystery kind of happens once you get there. And there's this new Mayan exhibit that's opening, but the museum has a break in shortly after that exhibit opens, and there is a jade carving that's stolen. So then you have to go into detective mode and figure out who
That's so
stole this
cute.
carving. And I really like this one. I feel with a lot of the games they do this, but I feel especially with this one, you get to learn a lot about Mayan culture and history,
That's
which I
cool.
really appreciate, especially as a kid, because that's not something we really learned in school.
Yeah.
So the characters, you have Joanna Riggs, who is the curator of the museum. She is very type A, so obviously she's stressing about this
Mm.
break-in. There's Henrik Vanderheun, and he is hired by Joanna because he's an expert in translating hieroglyphics.
Oh,
And
cool.
I have a little story with Henrik because this is my favorite game. This was around the time where my dad got us this massive fish tank. So one of the first fish we got, I named Henrik.
Cute. I love that. Aw.
And then there is also Alejandro Del Rio, who is an ambassador to the Mexican consulate, and Taylor Sinclair, who is an art dealer in DC. So those are the
Mm.
four characters that you kind of interact with and interview, and then one of them is the bad guy.
Mm. You
And
don't have
it's
to spoil it for us if you don't want to, but do you
yeah.
remember who the bad guy
Oh
is?
yes. Mm-hmm.
Cute.
Some of the old ones I don't remember, but this one I have played quite a few times just because it was my favorite. And then even as an adult, I got the digital download a few years
Yeah.
ago, and it was so fun to relive it.
I like
Um,
that. I feel like there's some of those games from like kind of childhood, kind of teen years, even like The Sims or the Roller Coaster Tycoon or things like that, where
mhm.
like if you play them as an adult, I feel like sometimes it's just as fun. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's I like that you went back to the Nancy Drew games. I just feel like, yeah, love it. Keep
Yeah,
going.
it's fun. And then this game for big time fans of the Nancy Drew game. So there's a lot of Easter eggs just within each game as a whole. And you can and some of the newer ones they started where you could, if you found certain Easter eggs, you would get little awards at the
Oh,
end of
cute.
the game. But there is this chocolate bar called Cocoa Kringle that appears in every game. And the first one that it appeared in was the Secret of the Scarlet Hand. So that's kind
Ooh,
of something just you as a fan or a player of all of the games, part of it is to find out where the candy bar is in that episode.
that's
Not
cute.
episode, that game. Yeah. And so that is kind of overall why I wanted to talk about Nancy Drew games, but why I find it particularly cozy, even though there are some scary slash creepy elements. Overall, they're not too scary, especially when you compare it to horror games and
Yeah.
things like that. They were still intended for kids to play, so there's a few creepy things, but not too bad. Obviously, I have a lot of nostalgia with the games, but like I was saying, other than the second chance moments, there's not really any time limit. So you can take your time with your puzzles and the gameplay. You have unlimited lives. And in most games, kind of that money making mini game, you can play at any time. And most of the time, it's pretty easy. So if you do need to
Nice.
just de stress, you're like, I'm going to go make some sandwiches and
Cute.
try not to kill Nancy. Um, but so yeah, I love how kind of chill the game is. It's very
Mhm.
not high stakes. And I also really enjoy the music, and
Mhm.
my friend Alyssa, shout out if you're listening, she introduced me a few years ago. There is a YouTube video called Nancy Drew Study Music, and
Nice.
so I like to listen to that in the background. And not all of the clips of the score, but a lot of them I could tell you which game they are from.
Cute. I like it.
So, yeah, so that is my case file, the Nate's Jew games.
Yay. I feel like again, just in connecting the two case files, I feel like one, it has more to do with our love of travel than I thought. I feel like a lot of
Yeah.
things as kids, because it was like, okay, Nancy Drew's going over here, or like Mary Kate and Ashley are going to Australia or wherever they're going. I feel
Hmm.
like it showed us all these different places in the world where maybe we like hadn't had the opportunity to go, or like couldn't even like fathom what that was as a kid. And also the detective side of it, where I've seen a lot of funny memes about how like women love watching like the murder mystery type things on either like Netflix or like
Hmm.
the true crime type things. And I do think maybe it's in multiple time eras, but like specifically in like our childhood, if you're around our age, I feel like it was a big thing of like, okay, you can solve this mystery and go do this thing and fix these clues. And I feel like that's just carried with us now. I
Yeah,
mean,
truly.
us 2 specifically too, because of the
Yeah, it's
name
the
and
whole
vibe of the
whole
podcast,
premise.
yeah. Yeah.
Clearly we loved it. But yeah, I think part of the childhood love of mysteries, obviously, a lot of us probably grew up playing the board game Clue as well.
Mhm.
But I feel like, and I know for a lot of people who love the true crime now, they consume it to be able to be more aware and safe. And so maybe that
Yeah,
those things won't happen to them. But I think as kids, it almost, because of our imagination, and you're
yeah,
able to kind of just imagine these hokey mysteries and
yeah.
kind of decide where it's going to go. But I think also of when you're a kid, you obviously don't have a lot of control over a lot of that's happening to you. And so being a detective or solving a mystery kind of gave you control over it.
Mhm.
And so maybe that's why as kids
Yeah.
we gravitated toward those stories.
Yeah, and the independence of that, and
Mhm.
that, like, you could make decisions and, like, cause, I don't know, like, a good outcome, or, like, you could figure out the whatever, or, like, you're smart enough to do whatever, so I feel like, yeah, it's definitely the combo of things, because I feel like especially more as adults, it's like some of it's the safety aspect of it for sure, but I
Mhm.
feel like as kids, that imagination aspect, and it just, like, felt, I don't know, I guess, like, fun to be, like, a detective and figuring it out,
Mhm.
because I don't know, it was just fun. I
Yeah.
don't have too much, like, deeper than that as a kid, but
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to go all deep, but I was just thinking like maybe that's why. But this
yeah.
was really fun because obviously we call you guys our cozy detectives.
Mhm.
We have case files every episode, so it's just kind of fun to be the detectives talking about detectives this week.
Yes, and the cozy side of it, again, to, like, again, not take it too deep, but the cozy side of it where it's like we're discovering fun, new, cozy things versus
Mhm.
anything scary or spooky or, like, icky. So, yes, this will
Yep,
always be cozy vibes for sure. Even
100%.
in our, like, that mummy, I'll tell you what, if I was pushed into that thing with that mummy that you showed me, I would not be a fan. But again, it's the cozy aspect of it, so
Yeah, I
love it.
always sometimes again, I think we talked about this. I don't remember which episode, but the computer room
Mm,
thing.
mhm.
So I remember I would play these a lot. My sister would sit and watch me and
Cute.
kind of be my sidekick detective.
Cute.
But we would play it a lot of times like late at night or before bed. And so that would be the only light. So it
Yeah.
did get a little creepy sometimes.
Yeah. I still have, like, the, Dwight, the junior detective to the junior detective.
Amazing. Well, tell me about your 2% from this week.
My 2% is in the works, so we will see if by the next time of recording it is complete or not, but I feel like I'm taking my time with it because I really want to create something that I will enjoy wearing, because I'm not the big, I mean, I'm wearing a necklace today, but I'm not the biggest, like, chunky necklace girly.
Mhm.
But I feel like I've seen a lot on social media about the charm necklaces versus
Did
charm
you see
bracelets.
mine?
Yes, literally yours. We recorded the last time we recorded, Larissa was wearing one.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I
I
was
forgot
like,
I had that on.
yeah. And I was like, okay, I really like that. And I do want to do something like that because I keep seeing it pop up in all these different locations. So I'm in the process of creating one. I don't have all of my charms figured out or placed or anything like that. So if you have that, let me know. Send me your links, even if it's complete, because I think that's the fun thing about it is, in theory, if they're the clip-on ones, you could replace them or move them around and things.
Mhm.
So that is my 2% cozy in progress.
Love it.
But I couldn't quite see the details of yours. Do you have a favorite of your charms from your
Yeah,
necklace?
and I can show pictures to overlay on our video. But my sister and I actually made them together.
Cute.
So we ordered, and I can send you the link and we can
Yeah.
share it. But Michael's has a 300 pack of
Whoa.
charms, all with the jump rings included,
Oh, nice.
for about $30.
That's
And
not
so we
bad.
just split that, and for that many charms, and they're good quality. About probably about 2/3 have color, and then the other third are just pure gold, not pure gold, but gold
Yeah.
plated.
Yeah.
Um, but what we did is we went through them. I picked out ones for her and she picked out ones for me. And
Cute.
then we like decided which ones we wanted to keep. But yes, I will share a photo right now so you everyone can see it. if you're watching it. If you're listening, we can share it on our Instagram story as well. But yeah, it was just a fun activity to do together, but especially if you do it on your own. But I have seen the ones with the clip on so you can change them out. So that could be
Yeah, or
a
even
fun
like
thing too.
the O-rings aren't too hard to put like back and forth. So I feel like even if you do one, you could do one for like each season or something like that if you're
That would
feeling
be
it.
fun. Hmm.
So I'm thinking kind of summer into fall vibes because I'm also in planning mode officially for embroidery things. So I feel like doing that combo is what my mind's eye is seeing for this necklace. So
Love it.
that's my
Yeah.
2% ink in more like 1%, but we're getting there.
Love it.
What's your 2%?
Mine was kind of in relation to our summer reading challenge. So the
Nice.
first milestone I hit this past week of the 25 hours, which is to treat yourself to a frozen treat. And I've been talking about, so there's this place that we like to go that sells real, authentic Italian gelato.
Yum.
And I've been trying to get my sister to go with me for a while now. And so I said, well, I finished the challenge. We have to go. But I put up in our Instagram story for if anyone had any suggestions. And Laura from Stars Hollow
Mhm.
Clothier, shout out to her, but she recommended gelato. And I was like, girl, I already had it planned. So we went to that the other night, and they do usually do like a two flavor option. So I
Yum.
did an amaretto and pistachio combination. So it's
Ooh,
really
very
good.
summery, very yummy. I love
Mm-hmm.
that. Oh,
Yes.
what'd your sister get?
I think just a coffee flavor. She just did
I get
one,
that. That's also
which,
classic, good
yes.
summer.
Yeah, coffee is my favorite ice cream flavor. I feel with gelato, I tend to like a lot more flavors. Just I like gelato more than ice cream.
Yeah, same.
I mean, I still love ice cream. It's like one of my favorite foods, but I feel like with ice cream, like flavors I keep to very limited, but gelato, I don't know. Because I like gelato or pistachio gelato, but I don't really like pistachio ice cream unless it's done very well.
Yeah, same. There's got to be something in the process that I'm unaware of that just has those flavors hit different in gelato versus
Yeah.
ice cream.
Yeah. Well, I think too, it like just specifically with a pistachio, I feel if it's that artificial green
Yeah, no
color, I
neon.
already know it's going to be.
Yep.
But if it's just that olivey green
Yep.
color, I know it's going to be good.
Yeah, you're looking for muted for the cozy detectives for tips. You're looking for muted. You're looking for like a brownish greenish color
Yep.
for a better flavor pistachio ice cream. That one
100%.
and my brain is saying pistachio and nocciola, which is hazelnut and pistachio in Italian. But
Yes.
that's the combo. That's like
Mm-hmm.
my top
Which
favorite.
um, amaretto is almond.
Oh, well, there you
So
go.
it's very similar.
Right there.
Mm-hmm.
Right there.
Yep. All right. Well, you can find us on Instagram at Blanket Fort Files Pod, and be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. We'd appreciate your feedback, so leave us a review. It really helps us out. Join us next week in the Blanket Fort, where we're finally going to be discussing what brought us together,
Yay.
Gilmore Girls. We're
Yay.
doing
We're
it!
doing it. It is autumn vibes. I'm so excited.
Finally, we're doing it. I'm so, so excited.